Hello and welcome everyone to a special edition of The Difference Makers, brought to you by Difference Makers Media. I am so glad to be here today. I'm Lynn Sanders, your host, and I want to invite you to put in your name and where you're hanging out from in the chat bar so we can acknowledge you during this special program. Our topic for today is how to get your book or future books into bookstores across the country. And we have a terrific guest to answer those questions for you. You know, many of you who are authors or future authors recognize that it's a big accomplishment to get your book published and out into the world. But the big question is really, how do you get it out there in a big way? How do you overcome the challenges? How do you become successful so people can get to know you more and recognize your book? To answer those questions, we have Amy Collins here of New Shelves Book. Let me just tell you a little bit about her. Amy is a leading book marketing expert who has not only helped me personally, but has helped countless others through her coaching and online book marketing program. She's truly a difference maker, and she can make a big difference for you. In fact, her book company, or her book marketing company, is one of the fastest growing distribution, sales, and marketing companies in North America. So without further ado, welcome, Amy.
Oh, thank you, Lynn. I absolutely love your show, and when I watch what you and I'm very sorry about Roland, but what I've watched what you guys have put together recently over the last few years, I'm thrilled to be here again. Thanks.
Thank you. And I feel so glad to have connected with you, especially because I know you give such great value to everyone. So I want to start out first, as I do with every guest, to ask you a little bit about your story and how you got into the book publishing world. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it was about 30 years ago. I was a full-time musician. I was making a living as a musician, and I needed money for Christmas presents. I don't know if you know any full-time musicians, but we don't, as a rule, make tons of dough. So I got a part-time job in a bookstore, and it all started from there. Within a few months, they'd asked me to stay on full-time. A few months after that, they asked me to be an assistant book buyer. And within a year, I was the book buyer for a chain of bookstores in upstate New York. I did that for several years, where my job was to meet with the sales reps at Simon & Schuster and the independent reps and the big house reps and the mediums and the little guys. And I would decide what books went on the shelves of my bookstores. There were at one point 16 stores that I was buying for.
Oh my God.
Grown-up stores, kids stores. I bought music. I bought books. And I loved it. But I eventually, they call it hopping the desk. A lot of buyers become sales reps eventually because they come to know what a store needs and they get really good at selling. So I tried my hand at it and I loved it. So for the next 15, 20 years, I sold books for other publishers. I worked for some of the biggest names in the industry. I worked for huge publishers, and 13 years ago, I started my own distribution company where I started selling books for little guys, one book authors, mid to small to mid-sized publishers that had 2 books or 10 books or 15 books. Single title self-published authors became a huge part of the market. And so a few years ago, I shifted to education, and now I teach people how to sell their own books into bookstores, into libraries. If you've got questions about the airport stores or Costco, I trust me, I've got experience and I've gotten an opinion, and I will tell you both.
That's terrific. That's what I love about you. You're authentic, you're real, and you know what you're talking about because you've gone through the experience. So let me ask you, being an author myself and having been so grateful to find you, I'd like you to share what are some of the biggest challenges that you feel authors are facing right now.
If you are self-published, you are being painted with a brush that is perhaps a little unfair. And I think one of the largest challenges that you may have if you have decided to publish your book on your own is that you will be lumped in with all of the people who decided to either publish on their own or hire someone to publish them and they didn't do a very good job. So, Lynn, I know your book was properly edited. If your book is properly designed and laid out, if you hired a proofreader, if your book needs an index and you truly got it properly indexed, not all books, very few books now actually need an index, but some still do. If you took all the steps to publish your book properly, it is unfair that because you published the book on your own, that you are lumped in with all of the people who didn't publish it properly. But the fact is, most people do not actually publish a book. Most people print a book-shaped object. They skip very vital steps. They skip editing. There's several different types of editing. You need to go through all of them. They don't hire a designer. Or if they design the book themselves with a template, there's great templates out there. They ignore what the templates are telling them, or they buy a poor template that's not a good fit for their genre. They'll buy a sans serif block nonfiction prescriptive how-to template to lay out their romance novel. They don't take the time to educate themselves and to learn how to become a publisher. And then unfortunately, people like you, Lynn, who have taken the time and who do know how to publish a book properly, you get lumped in. And that is what I would say is probably the biggest hurdle that most small presses, independently published, small self-published, whatever you want to call yourself, what they face. But there are ways to overcome that prejudice. And it is a prejudice. But unfortunately, it's a prejudice that exists because you really are fighting a perception that is reality.
That's so true. So my book, for those who are listening, is called Dancing with Tex, The Remarkable Friendship to Save the Whooping Cranes. It's a children's book that won an award from the Illinois Conservation Foundation. But what really I found is that even people in that niche of children's book publishing, they don't tend to want to self-publish because they don't value it as being credible, I think. And it's more recently become more credible, but people typically want to be traditionally published because honestly, it's a lot less work once you get published.
Well, yes.
But there's so much to know.
It's also, you don't have to work as hard when you win the lottery either. But it's about as rare.
Really?
And children's book authors are in a particularly difficult position because 4-color picture books are far more expensive to produce print on demand. So you're fighting and competing against Source Books and Candlewick and HarperCollins Children's. And these publishers, they'll buy 10, 20, 30,000 copies from Indonesia or China, and they'll print them over there for pennies on the dollar. You're paying $2 or $3 per book to print the book, print on demand, one at a time. And you can't really compete on price. So then all of a sudden, your book is far more expensive than the beautiful books that are being put out by Candlewick or HarperCollins. And that's also a problem that a lot of self-published authors face, especially children's book authors.
That's so true. And there's so many things to know. You just flew by a whole bunch of details. I think it would be good to just enumerate, and anyone listening, feel free to, put in your questions.
Guys, if you click on the
participants
hover your mouse down at the bottom of the bar, you will see something that says Q&A. Feel free to type any questions you have into the Q&A. I'm happy to answer them as we go along.
Oh, that's great. So anyone here listening, please feel free to type in questions. You were mentioning, Amy, some of the variables that self-published authors have to be aware of, and obviously that affects their book sales. So let's go to what are the stores looking for from authors and books today, and I'd like you to enumerate on some of those details that you described about a good quality book.
I spend a lot of time talking to book buyers, and just because I was a book buyer doesn't mean I know what's happening today in the industry. Things change. Things are very different now than they were in the early 2000s, and they're even different now than they were in 2015. Everything changes in our industry, but right now, if you are trying to get your book into independent bookstores or some of the chains like Barnes & Noble or Books A Million, I'm not talking about airport stores or Costco, I'm not talking about those, but the actual bookstore market, what buyers are looking for, first and foremost, is can they make money on your book? So your book needs to be priced properly. You cannot price your book $5 more than everyone else in your genre is pricing there because no one will buy it. So they can't make money on your book. You also shouldn't price your book $5 less than everyone else has your book because they can't make money on that either. They need and they want a nice 40% profit on every, if you have a $20 book, they're going to give you 60% of that, which is $12, and they want to keep the other $8. So your book needs to be priced properly. You need to know what your market is selling their books for, and you need to match it. Your book needs to be roughly the same size. It needs to be edited as well. The design needs to be extremely well done. I want your cover and the cover of a book that came out by Random House. I want someone, a reader or a book buyer at a store, to look at them and not be able to tell the difference. Is that a Random House book or is that self-published? And until you get there, you're not going to have a good time in the bookstores, I'm afraid. So the design has to be professional. The editing has to be beautifully done. It needs to be well written. Now, your book, Lynn, is very well written. But your book, being a children's book, you've got things that kick in that I don't have to deal with as a nonfiction, black and white page author. Your colors have to be rich. Your illustrations should not be computer generated from Bangladesh. You need, and you don't grab a Comic Sans font from your Word document and put, things need to be done beautifully. But if you execute your publishing properly, that is what bookstores are looking for. They're looking to make a profit. They want to make sure that they can get a hold of your book easily. They do not want to jump through a bunch of hoops. And so the third and most important thing, and then I'll shut up, is the book needs to be available from a wholesaler that the bookstore uses. And those wholesalers, they have criteria that they are hoops they're going to make you jump through. But I would tell anyone who's interested in selling to the bookstore market, have your book available from Ingram at a full 40% discount to the bookstores. That means that you have to give Ingram 50 or 55% so they can turn around and give the bookstore 40.
Exactly.
Baker and Taylor. You should have your book in Baker and Taylor. If you're interested in libraries, then your book should also be in Brodart and Midwest book distribution, library distribution. So those are the three big things. It needs to be properly published. They have to be able to make money, and they have to be able to order your book easily. If you can clear those three hurdles and assure them that those three things are done, you're in really good shape for bookstores.
Wow, that is a wealth of information. And I think anyone listening here can realize there are so many details to be aware of, details that I didn't know as I jumped into the world of self-publishing, such as a graphic illustrator, and I found a terrific one, may not know how to an illustrator may not know how to lay out the picture and the words on the page. I don't know if you know about that.
A graphic designer is not a children's book designer. You need to hire a children's book designer.
Right, and the designer is different than the graphic artist. I had a terrific illustrator. Unfortunately, he did not know something I thought he would know, how to put the words on the page properly.
It's two different skill sets. It's two different, and too many people make that decision. Sue, I do see your question. I'm going to answer it in a second, but it's really important that you guys understand, and this is the analogy I use. I have one guy who, if I needed my car painted, I would go to him. If I wanted my house painted, the outside of my house painted, I would go to another company. If I wanted my inside of my house painted, like my bathroom, that's another painter. That's a whole different, those are three different skills. And if I wanted a painting to hang over my couch, that's a fourth kind of painter. So there's painters who paint cars, there's painters who paint houses, there's painters who paint bathrooms, there's painters who paint watercolors, there's oil painters. So just because someone's got the word designer in their job title, for the love of Pete, that does not mean that, so find the right person for your group. For anyone who's curious, I've got on my website, newshelves.com. Here, I'll type the URL into the chat box. You guys, if you click on the chat box, you'll see the URL. But I've got a link on my website called People We Like, and it's a bunch of people that I can personally tell you know their stuff. So feel free to go there. Sue is asking about the criteria for libraries. Sue, it's pretty much the same thing. Your book needs to be properly published. You need to have your book in the right wholesalers, but you do not need to give those wholesalers a 50 or 55% discount. Libraries only need a 20%, sometimes 30% from their wholesalers, so you can give that wholesaler a 40% discount and you're golden. You're in good shape.
Oh, that's great. I think anyone also listening could recognize how invaluable it is to have a coach like Amy here, Amy Collins, because there are so many things to know. And one of my favorite sayings, I don't know where I heard this, is People only know what they know. I don't know if you've heard that, but it's like an obvious thing, but you don't think about it. Like you gave the painting illustration. You think, if you don't know, you think, oh, an illustrator would know how to put words on a page. Well, they may not, because that's the graphic artist role. And you may not know that, that you need to edit because you think your writing is fine. Well, even writers, I myself like to have someone else check my work many times.
Well, and Einstein said the brain that created the problem is not the brain that can spot the problem.
Ah, good.
That's a paraphrasing, but yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's invaluable. It's almost like having a shortcut to success. I just thought of that little phrase. To have someone like you, Amy, because there's just so much to know. And even if you know one element, let's say you know the book writing part or the publishing part, then there's the marketing part. And I've told colleagues over and over, think of 3 buckets. Writing is huge. It's great that you got the book written. Publishing is also big. But then the next step, equally important, is how do you market and publicize your book so it gets out there everywhere? Which is going to help me transition is, what can an author do to make your book successful in a retail environment, which is different than library environment. But right now we'll focus on retail.
The easiest and fastest way to get into the bookstores is to understand that it is also your job. Once you put your book into a store, and this is also true for Costco, airport stores, Walmart, Target, independent bookstores or chains, I don't care, any store. If you understand that your job is to get your book into the store, but that you're not done, then your job is to get the book out of the store. It is not Target's job to sell your book. It is Target's job to offer your book to their customers. It is your job to get them to go in and look for it. So the fastest and easiest way to become much more successful as an author right now is I don't care how much advertising, promoting, and marketing you're doing right now, it's time to step it up. Right. Nobody's doing enough, including Stephen King. Nobody's doing enough. I'm not doing enough. Lynn, you're not doing enough. None of us are. There's no shame in that. None of us are doing enough. We need to be asking for reviews from bloggers and from you're talking about difference makers. There are media people out there who can make a huge difference in people's awareness. We need to be connecting with other authors in our genre and cross-promoting all the time. Other authors are not our competition. They're our community. Use your community. It's getting your book into the stores is just the first step. But if you want to be successful, you need to partner with that store. If your local pet store is carrying your children's book, then advertise that pet store and your book on Facebook in that geographic area. Lynn, if you're going to hit up Rochester, New York pet stores, well, then spend $35 that month and advertise your book as available at the local pet aquarium store. And the store will love you. And you'll drive sales. And instead of just driving everyone to Amazon, and the same thing's true with libraries. If you love libraries, well, then advertise that your book is going to be in that library so that people go there and they reserve the book from the library, or so they download the ebook from their website.
That is fantastic. I know that I could use to do more because I only have 24 hours in a day, and there's so much out there, on social media and bloggers. So I feel it's probably very helpful to have someone assist. I've had people assisting me in social media marketing, but this tip that you gave with even the idea of advertising or promoting where your book is, that is a really fabulous tip. I never thought of that.
We need to be asking people to review our book or mention us every day. And I don't know of any authors that do it every day.
Wow.
They'll do it for a few days and then they lose steam or they get discouraged. But successful authors, it's kind of like people who are successful at working out. They do it every day.
Well, don't you think just as people have mastermind groups, that people could have, as you mentioned, a group where everybody cross promotes each other regularly? That might be a solution because we all get busy. But how do we do something?
That'll only work for a short while, and then it gets tired in your mastermind group. I need to be reaching out. There are new people in our industry every week. I have not even scratched the surface of people who have YouTube channels that talk about self-publishing. I don't know everyone who's going to conferences. I am constantly out there speaking. I fly all over the country and all over the world, and I am always amazed. There are hundreds of people, every conference I go to that I've never heard of before, and they've never heard of me. Where have they been? I'm amazing. I've been out there for decades. How come I don't know these people? And it's because I get complacent. And I would argue that most of us do. I think I know who's who and what's what, and I know Jane Friedman, and I know John Kramer, and I know Daniel Hall, and then, you know what? We're all old. We are old and we are tired. There is new stuff going on all the time, and we need to stay teachable, and we need to be out there.
Oh, that is a great line. So what if a book isn't a fit for a bookstore? How else can people get their book out there? What else can they do to sell their book? Share some of your tips with us.
My book is not a great fit for most bookstores. Most bookstores need to make a certain amount of money for every square inch on their shelf. So if I take my book, which is a book that's supposed to teach people how to self-publish properly and how to sell and market their self-published book, there's no bookstore I can think of right now that should take 5 copies of my book, because they don't have 5 authors or self-publishers that are going to come in looking for a book on that topic. My book does not belong in most bookstores, because most bookstores do not have enough customers who want my kind of book.
Really?
Oh, it's true. It's true. And I don't feel bad about it. The fact is that half an inch on the shelf needs to make my local bookstore a certain amount of money every week, or else they are wasting that space. It is not earning its keep. And if I'm only going to sell enough books that half an inch isn't going to make the bookstore the kind of money it needs, it doesn't belong on the shelf. I don't take it personally. But where does my book belong? There's an organization here called Writers and Books. They're a wonderful company here in Rochester, and they've got a countertop. Why wouldn't I reach out to Writers and Books and ask them if I can put a dozen copies of my book on their reception desk for 1 month? And in exchange, I'll give them 40% or 50% of all the sales. And we'll try, because you know what Writers and Books is filled with? Writers and self-published authors. Why would I focus just on bookstores? My bookstore is not a great fit for my book. But you know where else is a great fit for my book? Gift shops. Especially gift shops that sell paper and pens and stationery stores and cards. Oh, art shops. Artistic people. So art supply stores might be a great place for some of us to put. Pet stores. Maybe your book about how to take care of your aging Dalmatian doesn't belong in every Barnes and Noble, because there aren't enough Dalmatian owners out there to make it worth Barnes and Noble's. Guys, I'm going to tell you again, every inch on the shelf needs to make them money. And if your book can't do that, there are thousands of stores that you can make money for. So go to your local pet shops, go to your hardware stores, go to children's boutiques, go to toy stores. It doesn't always have to be bookstores. And don't forget online. Everyone gets so focused on Amazon, but there's also IndieBound, indiebound.org, which is the online co-op for independent bookstores. There's ebooks, there's audiobooks. You can get your books out there in tons of formats. There's subscription services. I just wrote a blog about this last week. I listed a half a dozen or more subscription services on my blog that people need to know about, where you can upload a chapter a week and people can subscribe and read your book, and they pay, you get paid. It's awesome.
Wow, that is fantastic. Tell everyone where they can read your blog, Amy. Where will they find it?
Newshelves.com. If you go to newshelves.com, you can either click on the blog link or go to newshelves.com/blog.
Terrific. And you have been kind enough to give everyone a gift. I'm watching the clock. You have so much information. I highly recommend, Amy, you can tell in this short amount of time how much information she's giving you right now to get your book out into the world. She has a free gift on top of that to give all of you. And if you
let me share where you can find that.
Under that, we're going to do this. I actually found Amy through her webinar. I don't know how I found her. I was searching online, but she gives an amazing free webinar. Oh, I love the graphics on this.
Do you see that okay?
Yes, it's beautiful. FastIndieBookMarketing.com /Lynn. That's because you're getting a special arrangement through.
And if you go to the chat box, I dropped the URL into the chat box. You can just click on it. It takes you right to a page where I have recorded an hour-long video that walks you step by step through the process of what you need to do to sell your book into the bookstores. I talk about exactly what the email should say, what you say if you have to pick up the phone and call them, what materials you're going to need to give them. I outline it all for you it takes about 45 minutes to watch the actual step-by-step part. And then there's some Q&A and an offer at the end. But it's a totally free video you guys should check out.
I have to verify that after watching this, Amy, I wanted to take your course because there is so much value, and I myself have gotten great results, more than it cost me to participate in your video program, because I took your library marketing program, which I know you're updating right now, but because of that, I got my book into libraries and also made money from the libraries, so it more than paid for your course. So if you wanted just to let people know what comes after this free webinar, I think that would be worthwhile.
All right, well, this realfastindiebookmarketing.com/Lynn really is just a free class. Just take it. No expectations, no obligation. But if after the hour you will be able to take that and go create what you need to start selling. But if you'd like more hands-on help, if you'd like more classes, if you'd like more templates, and if you'd like the databases of all the top bookstores in the country and how to get a hold of Baker and Taylor and how to apply to Brodart and how to get your book pitched to Barnes and Noble and the real nitty-gritty, here's their name, here's their address, here's their phone number, here's the email you should send them, a little more hands-on and a little less go do it yourself, but we'll do it with you. Then there is a class that we are offering. It's quite expensive usually, but we're offering it to any of Lynn's folks for $497. And it's a lifetime membership and lifetime contact with me. But don't worry about that. Just watch the video, because the video is going to take you through the whole rigmarole.
Yeah, this is a thank you. Sue just wrote a comment. You are a godsend. I'm signing up for your class. Yes, Sue, do it. This is the best investment. Even if you take the free class, the best investment of time. And if you take the class, I can testify personally, this has been my best investment. I've more than made up the $497 or $997, whatever it was I spent, because you give all the steps, Amy, and no one else that I know of gives away a database that Amy just said so quickly, a database of all the names and contact information of people you need to know. In fact,
we update it regularly. This is a lifetime membership, and we update it a couple times a year because there's always new stores opening and some stores closing.
That's true.
But, guys, I don't believe in selling my knowledge. If you watch this video, you'll get everything you need to do it yourself, but then you have to go and do all the research and build all the pages and do it on your own. But I teach you how to do it. It's totally cool. If you've got more time, then this is the right answer for you. If you don't have as much time and you'd like, us to do a little bit more of it for you, that's fine.
Yes.
But in addition, there's also a closed Facebook group that anyone who takes any of my classes can participate in, and they get daily access to me. They can ask me anything. Oh, and that reminds me of Ask Me Anything.
Oh, yes.
I host a free consult every Friday called Free Advice Friday. Is it okay if I mention that?
Yes, I was going to mention it, so I'm glad you remembered to say it. This is great, too. Another free gift.
Anyone who wants to pick my brain, every Friday from 10 to 10:30, I open up. It's called Free Advice Friday. I open it up to the world. You guys, you can log on to my webinar, and you can ask me anything. I answer questions for a solid half an hour, sometimes 45 minutes, depending on how many questions are being asked. And if you would like to sign up for Free Advice Friday, just go to newshelves.com/FAF. Free Advice Friday, FAF. So newshelves.com/FAF, and you can sign up, and I'll send you notices whenever, because I hold one every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, and I love to answer questions. Speaking of which, someone's asking a question.
Yes, let's answer your question.
10 to 10:30 Eastern time.
That's right, Eastern. So it's 9 a.m.
I used to do it a little bit later, but I have a lot of authors over in the UK. So I at this point, we're doing it at 10 a.m.
That's fine. I mean, and you told me today also that this is recorded so people can watch the replay if you missed the free advice.
If you go to newshelves.com/FAF, you will see months and months and months of Free Advice Friday videos that you can watch at your leisure. Questions being asked. And this is being recorded. And Lynn, you're going to be posting this on your site, correct?
Exactly. I'm going to post this both on my YouTube site with youtube.com and under Lynn Sanders and under Difference Makers Media. I will upload this under our programs. So Amy, this time just whirled by and it all flowed so smoothly. I don't know if anyone has any other questions, but if you do, feel free to ask them or go to newshelves.com. And you can get in touch with Amy. She's even giving away consulting. Is that correct? It says on your short
Yes.
consultation session. I don't know anyone who's so giving and so knowledgeable and so wonderful, Amy, as you.
Well, it helps that I love the sound of my own voice. So the fact that I get paid to listen to myself talk is pretty awesome.
That's right. And you're fun. I mean, how else can you best describe it? So I want to thank everyone for listening. Go to newshelves.com. I also recommend go to my website, differencemakersmedia.com, and enter a free gift of our story strategy guide so you can be kept in tune with all the different programs that we're giving for free for you to learn from. And of course, you can be in touch with me for a free consultation to learn how to move your stories out into the world. But Amy is definitely a key person that you should know about and take advantage of because she can really catapult your success. Amy, any last words you'd like to give to authors or would-be authors out there about making their books a success in the retail world?
It's just that we can all do one thing a day to move our goals forward, and that I am more guilty than any of you in letting too many days go by where I do not do even one thing. I used to say do two, but now I'm for 2019, I'm lowering my expectations. Just do one thing a day, just one a day. You will be amazed at how quickly it starts building up momentum. Don't skip a day. Just do one, no matter how small, do one thing a day to move your dreams and your goals forward in the book world. And a month from now, your entire life will be different.
Wow. Thank you so much, Amy. What a great, great message for everyone. And thank you all for listening. I hope you will tune again to differencemakersmedia.com and learn from Amy at newshelves.com. Have a wonderful day, and may your book be a huge success because now you know what to do to move forward. All the best to you. Bye-bye.